Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be discussing bioethics and why it matters. In today's video, I'll be introducing bioethics and its importance. I'll be sharing 2 bioethical theories and also 4 principles of the field. Then I'll be going over some major concerns and questions. I hope that whether you're a bioethicist or someone who's never heard of bioethics, this video proves to be helpful and instructive. To further your bioethical reflections and discussions, I've created a Notion doc and I've linked it down below. The field of bioethics ranges from genetically modified organisms to assisted reproduction techniques, such as IVF or surrogacy, from synthetic biology to palliative care, from genetic engineering to euthanasia and abortion. Also concerned with the allocation of care resource, such as organ donation and rationing, and the refusal to medical care for religious and cultural reasons. Before we dive into bioethics, let's start with ethics, plain and simple. What are they? Also known as moral philosophy, ethics is a system of principles that help us tell us right from wrong. These principles influence how people live their lives and make decisions. The ethical question is, what ought we to do? All things considered. Now, bioethics is a branch of ethics, but in the context of biology. It studies the controversial problems arising from technological and medical advancements. It wants to find out how this progress, seemingly beneficial, may impact our value system and the way we live. We must think critically of the ethical questions and conflicts that arise from advancements in the medical field. Bioethics doesn't defend a particular moral attitude, nor give a definitive answer, but it rather seeks critical and complete and balanced discussions and reflections around specific situations. I will be sharing 2 bioethical theories, the first being utilitarian bioethics. According to utilitarian bioethics, any action or decisions that lead to the greatest happiness of the greatest amount of people is good. For utilitarian bioethics, similarly to a pros and cons list, you'd have to list the beneficial outcomes as well as the damaging ones. Decisions are good or bad according to their consequences. On the other hand, you have deontological ethics that says reason identifies good or bad decisions, regardless of their consequences. Many think of it as rule-based ethics. There is a moral obligation to act in accordance of a particular set of rules, religious or cultural values, or even personal ones. There are 4 principles of bioethics. Firstly, there is autonomy. An autonomous action is intentional and authentic. One has the ability to judge the consequences of their actions, be accountable, and communicate their decisions. Next, there is beneficence, and this principle states that actions must benefit all parties, although they might have collateral effects. In essence, doing good cannot come against a person's will. In the domain of medicine, this means that physicians provide benefits to their patients, but also prevent and remove harmful conditions. The third principle is no malfeasance. This means that you cannot unnecessarily harm another individual. You must have an active attitude to do good, whereas damage is the result of a passive attitude. The fourth principle is justice, meaning that vulnerable people have the right to receive immediate medical attention. There should be an element of fairness in all decisions. Decisions that benefit and burden should be fair. The distribution of new treatments and scarce resources should be fair. For too long, the discussion around bioethics has been reserved for experts. But now, the general public, physicians, politicians, and scientists should all come together to promote open discussion. This is so important because as long as questions remain unanswered and conflicts unresolved, ethical ambiguity can be exploited. I will be quickly sharing 10 major areas in bioethics that you should know about. Firstly, there are clinical ethics. This aims to resolve uncertainties and disagreements in healthcare. Clinical ethicists will identify and clarify conflicts. During clinical trials, there are often challenges regarding informed consent, voluntary participation, and the protection of vulnerable people. Thanks to education and policy formation, clinical ethicists can improve institutional responses. Next, there's health policy, which encompasses the government's efforts to handle public health as a public good. Justice is particularly important in this one because the public is investing for their own safety and health. Should access to effective and quality health treatments depend on the patient's ability to pay? A popular area of bioethics is in regards to genetics. Advancements in genetic manipulation and engineering engendered numerous conflicts. Should those with an untreatable genetic disease inform their at-risk relatives? Are they obligated to? What are the parents' obligations to act in regards of the best interest of their children? Should policies protect paternal procreative liberty or protect social responsibility? Can't these go hand in hand? Next, there is neuroethics. There are quite a few legal, social, and ethical implications of tools and neuroscientific knowledge. Clinical neuroethics combines parts of neuroethics as well as clinical ethics. Clinical neuroethics deals with the interventions, drugs, and treatments that influence neurological and mental states. This addresses consciousness, death, deep brain stimulation, pain, and enhancement. There's also precision medicine. This designates personalized and individualized drugs that cost a couple $100,000. A goal of precision medicine is to identify the biomarkers that predict effectiveness of the individuals. Can expensive treatments be denied to patients who will very likely only gain a couple months or weeks to live? The following area has been heavily politicized in the last couple of decades, and this is with reproductive ethics. It relates to assisted and restricted fertility, terminating a pregnancy, issues over maternal and fetal best interests. Should we manipulate the DNA of our offspring to eliminate certain diseases or select superficial traits? What are the ethics surrounding germline engineering when change to the sequence is inheritable? What are the limits regarding the destruction of synthetic embryos? There are also research ethics. Seeing as we're gathering more confidential genetic data from patients and individuals, how are we risking their anonymity? How are we making sure they're staying safe? Is the data too identifiable? Should we balance the risk against the research benefits? Now on to shared decision-making. This is the process when a care decision is made, then discussed and negotiated between the physician and the patient. Patients can decide in light of preferences and values, as well as sound medical advice. This is an ethical medical practice and recognizes the individual's autonomy. You might have heard about the social determinants of health with the recent COVID-19 pandemic because it was an important topic of discussion. Social determinants of health acknowledge the metaphorical baggage that results from social and physical environment as well as access to resources. Limitations on care resources and services can determine a patient's ability to prevent illness, maintain health, and recover. Social justice places an emphasis on the disparities in healthcare and urge us to actively search for solutions for the individual and the population as a whole. With the COVID-19 pandemic, it was revealed that Black and Latino communities were more likely to suffer the adverse effects of the pandemic because where a person lives and their social experience profoundly impact their health. The social determinants of health are really important. Those were the 10 major areas, but there are also some rising technological concerns, such as biohackers, bioterrorism, cyber attacks on private data in hospitals, and much more. Our financial differences will influence our biological ones, and that's pretty scary. These concerns and questions are real, valid, and important. All our current advances and discoveries will irreversibly affect future evolution. When we address life at its core, we should have meaningful and open discussions.